Today we're going to step back about 20 years ago to a 1.2 kilowatt amplifier by a company called Dragster. What's this company all about? These amps were available in a 2-channel as well as a 4-channel model, included such specs as MOSFET power supplies, variable crossovers, red Rubin aluminum heatsink, high-quality epoxy boards, 2-ohm stable, encapsulated potentiometers, Teflon coated RCA connectors, and high-speed hex-fed outputs. Now friends, if you're not careful, you'll look at this amp and think, early 2000s pyramid, right? Kind of looks like it with the red color, kind of flashy with the chrome, all that stuff on it. But no, this is not a pyramid amp. This is an Italian masterpiece, and we will get to that later. 2004 Car Audio and Electronics Directory. We're going to look it up and see if we can find this amp. And sure enough, Dragster, several amp models listed, including the 3602 and 1804. This is the model 1804, which is a 4-channel. And yes, my friends, $1,100 in 2004 equates to around $1,780 in 2023. Now, interestingly enough, this amp did not show up in 2005 or 2006 in the directories, and I think it's because it just wasn't available anymore in the US because it wasn't selling. So here's the amp. You can tell it's kind of a surfboard. Check out the chrome as well as the brilliant red anodization. Looks pretty cool overall. You may notice the chrome has oxidation, doesn't look very good overall. We will address this later in the video, so make sure you stick around for that. We'll see how it turns out. Here on the left, you can see the remote, also the left and right input for 1, the level adjustment and mono stereo switch. Then we have high pass crossover on or off, that is for channel 1. Then channel 2, we have an input for 2 or 4 channel RCAs, level control, mono or stereo for the input, low pass control, and on or off switch for that. Then we have the output for channel 1, left and right, and also the output for channel 2, left and right. Again, the amp is bridgeable. And then we have 2 different inputs for positive and negative for the ground. This amp does have some of the beefiest screw down terminals I've ever seen, and it can actually accept 4 gauge via the fork terminals, and that's what I'm going to use for the power and ground on this, so double 4 gauge for that. Now, speaking of its massive size, let's look at the dimensions. And yeah, 29, almost 30 inches in length, 9.7 inches for width, and 2.2 inches for the height. And the ratings as provided, 180 by 4 at 4 ohms, 300 by 2 at 2 ohms, or 600 by 2 bridged at 4 ohms, or also 180 by 2 plus 600 by 1 at 4 ohms. Here on the bottom of the amp, you can see some of the specifications as well as showing you how to hook up the amp, how to wire your speakers, all that. That's always very helpful with amplifiers, but you'll also probably notice it needs some polishing. So we got the mother's mag and aluminum polish. I've had this forever, so it looks kind of clumpy on the inside, but it still works, as you will see. Let's get some here on our rag, and then we're going to polish this joker up so you can see what it looks like. So speed up that footage, that beautiful bean footage, and we will see what it looks like. I did it like half, but I didn't put my tape down like I should have. But here you can see we also did the top. Later in the video, we've actually pulled it apart and did the front as well when we got to the guts, which we will show that. So overall, man, it really polished up nicely. Looks very shiny. That chrome is super reflective. You probably see the light reflecting off my bald head onto the chrome and then back and then back. It's like back and forth. Anyway, let's move on to the amp dyno test. Fire up the SMD DeMoore Engineering Amplifier dyno. If you haven't seen these tests before, on the left, power output in watts. In the middle, the ohm load. On the right, the voltage of the dyno. We'll also have the clamp indicator so we can calculate efficiency. This is a Class AB amp, so get ready for low efficiency.
This here's my favorite part.
First up, we'll have the amp wired up in stereo. We'll have 2 channels going to the amp dyno. The other 2 are going into resistors, either at 4 or 2 ohms based on the test. 4 ohms first, rated 180 by 4. Here we go, 1 kilohertz track. Let's see what we get. And yes, we get the 180, get a little more. Like almost 200 watts times 4 at 14.5, certified, nice. Now let's try it up to uncertified, which is up to the clipping point of the amplifier. And here are the results, right about the same, close to 200 watts per channel at 14.5 volts. Now we'll try the dynamic test to see if the amp has any extra dynamic capability. Looks like it's got a little bit of extra. Of course, our voltage is a little bit higher here because we are using a lithium bank. Around 230 average times 4. What about the efficiency? About 65%. Again, this is a Class AB amp, so we're only going to see it go down from there, my friends. Next up, 2 ohms, 4 channels, rated 300 watts by 4. That's the 1.2 kilowatts. If you can multiply, then that's what you'll get. And we're right at it. I mean, we're pretty close. It's like 295, I think is probably the average. So not far off from the 300 by 4 that it's rated. Let's try it uncertified to clipping. Our voltage is just a little bit under the 14.4, but again, we got pretty much right at the rated power, maybe 5 watts shy. Dynamically, we easily get the number, quite a bit more. Into the upper 300s, you can see right at 14.4. So there we go. Now let's check out the efficiency, and we know that it's dropped 53% at 2 ohms, 4-channel mode. Now it's time to bridge the amplifier. That's right, we have the amp bridge going into the dyno, so we're using all the channels here. You can see it's the outer terminal, it's the left minus, right positive. 8 ohms, 2-channel mode, it's rated 360 by 2. So let's try this test, and we're going at 1 kilohertz, it looks like, on this track. And there you go. Over 400 watts per channel, about 415 or so average. And that's not bad at all. Now let's try it uncertified. If it's like before, it's going to be virtually the same. Probably will be. Yeah, virtually the same. 14.5 volts. Let's reset the dyno here and try the dynamic track and see if we can bump those numbers up a little bit, make it a little bit more exciting. Here we go. Bumped them up a little bit. Not a whole lot. Didn't hit 500 watts. About 455 or so watts per channel at 14.68. Let's check that efficiency. 67%, which is very close to the 4 ohm stereo test, which is the same load here as we're giving the amp. Now let's try it. 4 ohms bridge is rated 600 watts by 2. Something very interesting is going to happen here. Yeah, what happened to the test? It kind of stopped. I'm like, what's going on here? Let's take a look at the amp. Oh, it's in protect. What? So we turned it off, turned it back on. Luckily, it did come back on green, as you'll see here. So we're good to go. Let's try it again. Let's go back to 8 ohms, though, and make sure not something wrong with the amp. It ran the 8 ohm test just fine. I'm like, something's up here. Let's switch it back and try 4 ohms again. And we'll take a look at the light at the same time here in the amp. And there you go. It goes into protect at like 25 watts. What is going on? I don't know. I tried everything I knew, including the dynamic test, just to see if it would run that one. And you can see it does run the dynamic test without going into protect. We get almost 800 watts a channel at 14.5 volts. Pretty strong. So then I decided, let's just run each channel individually, see if that works. And turns out it does. Amp doesn't go into protect. We get about 766 on one channel. And then we switched it over. We'll try the other channel. Let's see what we get on the other channel. Here we go. Over 700 again. Yeah, 770. So it's pretty close at 14.46. It's kind of a bummer that we couldn't run them at the same time. As far as results go, I just pretty much showed you all these results. We did 4 ohm stereo, 2 ohm stereo, all the tests here. And we also tried the bridge test. And as you could see, 4 ohm bridge test did not run except for the burst mode. Very interesting in why that happened. Now, I did put this on speakers. I ran it in a 3-channel mode. So 2 channels going to the bookshelf speakers, the other channel bridged going to the JL10W7. Let's see how it sounds. All right, I've heard the news. Smoke Jacket Blues is worn its way out. So let's try Smokey's Lounge. ELAC bookshelf speakers on channels 1 and 2. J Audio 10W7 bridge for channels 3 and 4. Let's take a listen. For the OGs, here's Smoke Jacket Blues. let's hit up this SQ setup with some Space Age Hustle. Overall, had no issues with the sound quality amp, with the subs, as well as the ELAC bookshelf speakers. It sounded great. Now let's find out what's inside. There were a ton of screws to take off to get into this amplifier, but you know, I'm going to do it for you guys because I would want to have it done if I was watching a video. Here you can see the layout. This is a beastly Class AB filled up board. There is no extra space in here. We have Elna 63 volt 2200 microfarad caps here. They are 85 degrees Celsius. That's for the rails. The power supply 3300 microfarad 16 volt, again Elna's. Then we can see the board here is made in the year 2000 according to this, and it's got these transistor clamps, and I decided just to pull them off, and we'll show the transistors. You can see the audio outputs as well as the power supply. The technicians out there will know more about this than me. RF 540As there for the outputs, and there you have it. It's just lined up all the way down the amp. Plenty of juice in this joker. But there you have it, the test and video here of this Dragster DH-1804. You probably never heard of this before. I know that I hadn't before I got it, and when I bought it, it looked immaculate. Too bad the guy who shipped it to me didn't know how to ship it, so it actually got banged up a little bit in shipping. Some of the fins got banged up. But over the years, you know, the chrome has turned some, but we did polish it back up. Hope you guys liked the video. Make sure you're subscribed. Give me a thumbs up. Till next time, you know where Big D is. I'm out.